Thank you. Now, to light the traditional oil lamp and officially inaugurate today's proceedings, I warmly invite Mrs. Indika Nagaratna, Chairperson, Women Lawyers, Professional and Career Development Standing Committee, Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Mrs. Nalini Manatunga, Co-Chair, Women Lawyers, Professional and Career Development Standing Committee, Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Mr. Muhammad Adamali, President's Counsel. Ms. Gayatri Chakravarti, Attorney at Law. Ms. Anusha Munasinghe, Attorney at Law. Mr. Isru Tilakavardhana. Ms. Nadija Thambaya, Attorney at Law. Ms. Dilrukshi Samravira, Attorney at Law, Legal Draftsman. Mrs. Aparna Tilakaratna, Chief Law Officer, Sri Lanka Ports Authority. Thank you. I would like to invite all guests to be seated, please. It is now my pleasure to invite Mrs. Indika Nagaratna, Chairperson of the Women Lawyers, Professional and Career Development Committee, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Madam.
Good afternoon. Distinguished members of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, our eminent resource persons, committee members, and all participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my immense pleasure to welcome you to the vital symposium, Beyond the Courtroom, Expanding Professional and Career Horizons for Lawyers. This initiative is a flagship event proudly organized by the Women Lawyers Professional and Career Development Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. A new vision for the legal professional. Far too long, the brilliant mind of a lawyer has been primarily associated with the four walls of the courtroom. While litigation remains the noble cornerstone of our profession, the skills we possess, analytical thinking, persuasive communication, risk management, and deep regulatory knowledge are transferable assets of incredible value to the world at large. Today, we gather to explore a broader landscape to realize the full potential of the legal education and to deliberately shape a future that is not just successful but deeply fulfilling. We are privileged to have an exceptionally eminent panel of resource persons joining us today, representing diverse sectors and a wealth of experience. Mrs. Anusha Munasinghe, National Program Coordinator, Regional Office for South Asia, UNODC. Mr. Isuru Tilakawadana, former DGM, Human Resources, Commercial Bank. Mrs. Gayatri Chakravarti, Senior Vice President, HR, Distilleries Company. Mrs. Nadija Tambaya, President, Legal Secretary, Fields Holdings. And the moderator of today's symposium, President's Counsel, Mr. Mohammed Adamali, Executive Director at Amana Bank, Sinwa Holdings Limited and Asset Line Leasing Company. Our next 1 hour, we will delve into critical areas designed to elevate our professional trajectory, specifically focusing on expanding legal careers beyond litigation, leadership and career advancement for lawyers, corporate HR and compliance roles for lawyers, opportunities in international and development organizations, professional growth, mentorship and networking. So this is more than just a symposium. It is a catalyst for change-focused discussion to equip our members, particularly our women lawyers, with the knowledge and connection to break new ground and excel in every shape they choose to enter. I encourage you all to engage actively, learn from our distinguished speakers, and use this platform for valuable professional networking. Thank you, and I look forward to an enlightening and inspiring session. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. I am pleased to introduce our distinguished panelists who will engage in today's discussion. We have with us today Mrs. Gayatri Chakravarti, Senior Vice President, Human Resources at Distilleries Company, Sri Lanka, who brings an impressive 25-year tenure with the company and a total of 38 years of distinguished corporate experience. An attorney at law by profession, she holds an LLB degree and has combined her legal expertise with strategic HR leadership. Ms. Chakravarti served as the president of the Association of the HR Professionals, demonstrating her commitment to advancing the HR profession in Sri Lanka through her influential leadership and advocacy. Our next panelist is Mrs. Anusha Munasinghe, attorney at law, with 31 years of experience, currently serving as the National Program Coordinator at the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Regional Office for South Asia, based in Colombo. She has led senior management roles in both state and international development sectors, specializing in administration of justice, criminal justice, and health-related issues. She has a notable background in law reforms, having served as Additional Secretary Legal for Sri Lanka's Ministry of Justice for 23 years. Mrs. Munasinghe holds a master's degree in public policy and management, a bachelor's degree in law from the University of Colombo. Her international experience includes coordinating programs on anti-human trafficking, migrant smuggling, with the United Nations Office on Refugees in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Since joining the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime in 2018, she has led projects on alternatives to imprisonment, access to justice, transnational organized crime, and healthcare concerns, bringing with her invaluable expertise. Also with us today is Ms. Nadija Tambaya, President, Legal and Secretarial at John Keells Holdings PLC. She is an attorney at law in Sri Lanka and is also a barrister at law, Middle Temple, UK. During her 30-year career in the group, she has risen from a junior lawyer position to sit on its highest executive decision-making body. The legal team at the John Keells Group currently number over 30, of which 95% are female. The lawyers are involved in various types of work that include mergers and acquisitions, notarial work, corporate structuring, litigation, intellectual property work, compliance, and governance, bringing with her valuable expertise on legal and corporate sectors. Our next panelist is Mr. Isuru Tilakawardana, who is a seasoned human resource strategist and business leader with over 30 years of leadership experience across financial services, insurance, capital markets in Sri Lanka and South Asia. He has been instrumental in driving HR operations and organizational transformation for major corporations, including the Commercial Bank of Ceylon, Hemas Holdings, and Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation. Mr. Tilakawardana holds advanced academic qualification, including an LLB, MBA, and a Master's in International Relations, complemented by executive training from prestigious global institutions. He is recognized as one of the top HR leaders and actively contributes to academic and professional fields through lecturing and professional associations. Our moderator today is President's Counsel, Mr. Mohammed Adamali, who is a highly distinguished legal professional and President's Counsel with extensive experience in civil litigation, commercial law, labor law, public law, banking, and arbitration. A graduate of the University of Colombo and Sri Lanka Law College with top honors, he has excelled both as a practitioner and academic, lecturing in law and management-related subjects. He is also a graduate in marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK. Beyond law, he brings rich business insight from serving as a director on boards of prominent Sri Lankan companies. Mr. Adamali is also an accomplished performing artist, award-winning orator, and active community leader with Rotary Honours, combining deep expertise with dynamic public engagement to offer valuable perspectives on legal and business matters. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed panelists to stage. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
A very good afternoon rather, to all of you. I'm honored to be here thanks to the organizing committee who put this together, and honored particularly to be in the company of such distinguished legal luminaries who've made it in various dimensions of the law apart from litigation. Seated here are examples of people who ventured beyond the traditional or expected line and really carved out exciting paths for themselves. And so I'm sure this discussion would be quite an interesting one. What we thought we'll do, instead of having presentations and then a Q&A session, is go straight into questions, and I'll like to give the panelists some prompts and then have them speak on those areas that we prompt. And so please feel free to take your time in delving into the area so that we get some depth in the discussions. Let me start with a bit of background. So as many of you might be aware, in the last year we have had in both batches in this year 1,300 graduates out of law college joining in the profession. We have also graduates who come out of the degree programs that do not join the profession, and so the total number is quite high. 1,300 seems like a large number, but the region in this area seems to have similar numbers. So if you look at India, there are about 100,000 law graduates a year, out of which about 70,000 enter the profession each year. So if you look at a comparison with populations, it's roughly a similar proportion. Of course, here it's a lot higher than what we used to experience. And like in India, we face a similar set of circumstances where young lawyers have difficulties finding access into the profession. However, I thought I'll start with just a very small comment on the Indian experience and the Sri Lankan experience, and maybe that might trigger a pathway for our discussion. So some years back, a couple of colleagues of mine and we were looking at setting up a legal process outsourcing arrangement for some people in the US. And we looked at the legal process outsourcing suppliers in Sri Lanka. And there was just the one company that was involved in it, and they had something between 70 and 80 seats. And speaking to them, they said it's been almost impossible to increase the cadre there. It's just not possible to find recruits who will fit the bill and who are willing to stay and work in this area. So we went into India, we went to Chennai, and we met one of the leading HR consultancy companies there, which have offices in about 6 or 7 states. And we gave them a set of criteria: minimum 2 years in the bar with contract drafting and that kind of background, high English proficiency, and a minimum 1-year commitment to the job. And we asked them for a 100-seat facility and how long it would take for them to get it together, and they wanted 20 days to fill 100 seats. So what's the difference? If the ratio is roughly the same of population to lawyers, how come we can't find seats here, people to fill the seats here, but you can find people to fill the seats there? It's an interesting thing to explore, but I thought I'll start with perhaps Nadija and her experience at John Keells. She's been at John Keells, I think, right through your career, the 30-year career, and made it all the way to the top of the legal division and beyond the legal division, handling also CSR. Nadija, can you tell us what kind of work the corporate sector of a conglomerate the size of John Keells, which has so many subsidiaries and a legal division which I believe services the entire group, what kind of legal work is involved in that kind of organization which has such a wide spectrum of businesses, ranging from covering almost every industry in the country. And how exciting is it? How challenging is it? What kind of special skills might be required to fit into that kind of operation?
Thank you, Adam. So I'll just spend a moment explaining John Keells for those who may not be aware, but it is one of the largest listed conglomerates, and it has within it 80 different businesses in about 7 industry groups. So we are the largest owner of hotels in Sri Lanka, and we do in our leisure business not only hotels but bring people in through in-house inbound tour operations. We have a logistics and transportation arm, so we own ports, airlines, agencies, container operations, and bunkering. We are in retail, and that includes supermarkets, now BYD cars, as you may know. And things like mobile telephones and office equipment, where in insurance, in banking, in stockbroking, tea broking, where in, I'm just trying to, property development. So it's big. And the legal team handles all the legal work unless we have major litigation which requires President's Counsel or senior lawyers. And I've been very fortunate to have a career that's been led by us being lawyers first. So one of the first lessons I was taught and that I maintained is that you are first a lawyer, so your ethical background and your ethical standards must be maintained even in your work. And secondly, I think deliberately for the benefit of the lawyers, but not necessarily for the benefit of the business, we didn't specialize. So the 30 lawyers in the group right now are required to go to court. They're required to handle company secretarial work. They're required to do some sort of drafting. They're all required to have their notary's license and to do some level of notary's work. So that all of us are well versed in everything there is to be a lawyer. We have meetings in which we brainstorm things like structuring so that even my litigation team understands what it's like to structure a merger or an acquisition of a company. I will pause to see whether you have, because I can actually go into a little bit of work to show you. I think on the screen behind me, I tried to put out what the different areas of work we cover are. We have litigation, we have conveyancing and notarial work. We have construction contracts, which are based on formats like FIDIC. We have a lot of commercial contracts that happen. We comment on new legislation. We lobby for new legislation. We are usually in the forefront of engaging with authorities when new legislation come in. I want to speak a little bit later maybe about the growing area of compliance, governance, and the new legislation in Sri Lanka and a whole host of new roles for lawyers that are opening up. I don't know whether you want me to pause there for a moment.
Thank you for the opening comments on that, Nadija. It's interesting that your department actually does the full range of active professional legal services that are provided. So in a sense, it's almost like a law firm.
And I think our litigation, I mean, we have litigation as well. We have a litigation team. We do all the instructing work and appearances for the small claims. That comprises, I would say, less than 20% of all the work that we do, and we monitor it because we bill our companies. So we monitor exactly how much time is spent in total. So it also shows that if lawyers in Sri Lanka are looking at courtroom practice as their only avenue, then there is some gap in our awareness of the range of work that's available to lawyers.
Right. Anusha, you come from a completely different practicing background, having gone into the NGO sector, the not-for-profit sector, really, and you head today the office of the UNODC here and in the region. We note from your academic background that you have a master's in public policy and management, but you consider yourself a lawyer first again. Can you perhaps throw some light on the need to keep learning and learning beyond the law and how that might have had a role to play in your career path?
Thank you, Adam. Yes, I think the starting point is being a lawyer. So I joined Ministry of Justice as a very junior officer and spent 20 years there uh, being a public officer. And I should say that happened, I was just talking to Gayatri also, that was sort of like a default thing that we went into that sector. And but that was for the start, as the starting point, it was a very good, very broadening area, because when you take Ministry of Justice Legal Division, the main focus is handling administration of justice, and that depends on the subjects and functions assigned to the ministry, and that varies on each and every government also. So that's, I should say, including research to law reform and representing the country for various initiatives. As example, when we started mutual legal assistance, we never heard about that concept, like how to do mutual legal assistance work with other countries. So and then actually I did the Master of Public Policy and Management because policy. I I thought the policy making aspect would add something to my thought process and to analytical skills. And after spending 20 years there, I had a total shift actually to international development sector. I joined United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, which actually, although it's a total twist, and I was sort of like senior officer by that time, I had to adapt to the new situation. So that was actually what I want to convey to young lawyers who are listening to us. It is not too late to like, if you have the passion, if you have the commitment. It is very that dedication made me successful in UN sector, where we have to think like coming from being a government officer, from the other side I have to work with government officials now. It helped me to like think how they think about like their needs, and then the skill set also which is needed for the United Nations entities and other international development sector is very different. So I think everyone has to have a very comprehensive set of skills, from research to like having innovative ideas to go for, like after one project, like what are you going to do with emerging issues. So you have to have like to attract donors. I mean, we totally depend on, it's very different to Nadija, so we totally depend on donor funded money. So then you have to impress donors with your ideas, especially with the sector like, which is not humanitarian. I think when it comes to humanitarian issues, it's like there are compelling reasons for donors to come forward. But when it comes to issues like drugs and crime, so we have to make that case, and like we have to do a lot of research. We have to have good presentation skills to present what we learn through research, and then like as the next step, when you receive the funding, how to implement that. And then again, like it's a full cycle. Not only implementation, we have to follow a lot of ethical standards, and then face the monitoring and evaluation process also. So we have, I mean, like I had to learn all these things, which was very different to government sector. So that's why I always think like, even though you start somewhere and then later on you think you need a change, and it's not too late. It's not too late if you have the passion and the commitment. So that is what I mean, like I can see somewhat like maybe virtually also there are various level of lawyers would have listening to us. So like and Adam, I think now when we think about I mean like when we look for people to join us, I should say it's very difficult to attract also. Like sometimes we have to go for, continue advertising the same thing over we put it usually for 2 weeks, and then again another 2 weeks, like then providing justifications, what we see is the most of the people, even to fill the application, we don't see the commitment. Like so, it's like you can see that they have done it in a hurry, and they don't try to impress us, like for us to take them on board. So that I suppose, I think a good message I can give it to them, and until you come to me with another question.
Thank you, Anusha. Actually, that's a very interesting point. While on one hand, a lot of our lawyers complain that they don't have work, there is such a wide range of work available, but sometimes perhaps no interest in pursuing something other than the straight and narrow. And actually, that brings me to our next panelist, whose career path has, gone like a river in various twists and bends. Isuru, you started off in a legal department. You then went into the trading division of the Colombo Stock Exchange, a manager at the Colombo Stock Exchange. Then you moved into HR as your chosen field. Again, completely different. And, have ended up as one of, I believe, you were recognized as one of the top 50 HR personnel in this region. Can you tell us a little bit about what took you through these paths so that people in the profession who are looking at other options other than litigation can be inspired by it or can take a cue of what they need to do?
Thank you, Adam. I think all of us were what happened in 87, 88 era. So our 4-year degree became 7.5 years, and I had no further desire to climb the Harsdorf Hill. By that time, I was tired of my plans on going on a legal profession. But I got a chance to join stock exchange as a management trainee. In 8 months, they confirmed me as a manager legal. And then I think what came out was that what I got from law, that is the leadership. One thing, a lawyer is a logical thinker, and you are not afraid to speak, and you are prepared to go forward and take challenges. So those things I think helped a lot, because although I was running legal at that time, I had a huge clearinghouse problem to solve, because those days the share trading was based on manual transfer documents and people are trading with open papers. So once I sorted that out, they saw my ability to handle a challenging situation. So I was given the task of running the trading floor of the stock exchange, which was like auction, which was chaotic. And again, it's a rule-based system. So my legal thinking helped there also, because I enforced the rules. But same time, I saw the need to change it. So I was sent to US. I was on the New York Stock Exchange floor and maybe various other main stock exchanges in the world. So I came back and basically took the task of changing the place. I went to automated trading. So I was working with IT people. I was identifying who the suitable vendors. And ultimately, I wrote the trading rules, which IT people wrote to codes. Even today, when you do a share transaction, how the market opens, how the order book is matched, is all what I wrote. So that is what law gave me, was the logical thinking, the ability to think logically and apply myself to a given situation based on the facts and figures available. So then I realized that I have to go further down the business route. So I did an MBA, and then did the MBA. I realized that I'm not working for a business place. Stock exchange is a marketplace, yes, but we are running market on a regulatory framework. Then I want to go and work for a company actually working for profits, for working for business. So the opportunity came in the insurance industry. That's how I ended up as a GM HR for Union Assurance at that time, after my MBA. So like that, then when the Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation was privatized, I was asked to join Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation by the new owners. There I actually took over the branches and managing the sales and marketing function, and cleaning up the place also, because there were a lot of things to clean up in the government corporation in terms of a lot of fraud and corruption. Actually, right along when I looked at it, how my career evolved to different business roles at different times, the legal basis was very useful. But the difference was that I was prepared to take up the challenge and I was prepared to learn. I was prepared to experiment with new ideas. Now, when you go to do an MBA, there's nothing of useful from your LLB. You start learning from scratch because you have to start working with numbers. Business is all about numbers. So anybody who wants to really go in that direction, I'm sure they have the potential, but willingness to make that sacrifice, learn new things, learn the numbers, learn accounting, learn about sales and marketing, learn about human resource management, business strategy. All that is possible because your original route is very powerful. Because the legal education gives you a very sharp mind. That mind can be easily trained to other fields. So therefore, no need to really confine yourself to law only. But there's some hard work that has to happen and some commitment to go down that road, as Anusha said.
Thank you, Isuru. Isuru, the commitment to learning, I believe even if you stay in mainstream legal practice, sometimes what we tend to overlook is the fact that you learn more after you've actually graduated and joined the legal practice as a practicing lawyer than you do while you're either in the faculty or at law college. I mean, while you study procedures, the way it actually folds out and how drafts are actually done is an entirely new learning process. And so, you know, even a lawyer who might think that I'm not too interested in learning something different would still end up having to learn quite a bit if he wants to get into the practice as well. Gayatri, your career and present position is extremely interesting. You are in an industry that's dominated by the male gender. Very much like the practicing lawyer part of the profession, the distilleries business that you work in, male-dominated industry. We see now, and I was happy to note the people in the marketing field in the distillery companies and the brand heads in many of them are now women, which is an interesting thought. Tell us, you know, again, from a legal background, you've even headed the HR, the Institute of HR Professionals here. What took you in the HR direction and what was it like? I mean, people complain that in the legal profession there is a strong gender bias. I'm sure you would have faced difficulties getting to where you are. Give us a little insight into that aspect and how you handled it.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, the organizing committee, for inviting me for this panel discussion. Very interesting topic, Adam, because we all passed out during a difficult era. You know, after a closure of 3-year period, we passed out as graduates. And by that time, I was working in the corporate sector. I know that's the time that people, like, you know, they went into different areas, like, you know, some went to finance, some went abroad. So in my case, I got employed. And when I did my attorneys, it was quite late. All of y'all had done it soon after you passed out from the faculty. So I decided to stay back in the corporate sector. My first job was with a law firm where I got my exposure in the legal work as well as company secretarial. And then I got into a private company where I was exposed to HR. That was different areas combined together, like administration, HR, law, and company secretarial. And from that point onwards, I continued with HR. But I was fortunate, I'm actually still fortunate to be of a legal background because as Isuru very rightly said, the exposure you get from a law degree, the analytical thinking and, like, you know, to ability to resolve complex issues, communication skills, the confidence, and to those have kind of helped me to come this far. Because DCSL, as you said, it's a male-dominated company. When you say alcohol, people think, okay, like, you know, it's only the Isuru Isuru and I worked with the same group for some time, and Isuru is still surprised that I'm still surviving there. It was not easy at the beginning, and there were a couple of times that I wanted to leave because our company had different branches spread right across the country, and those individual sectors used to work independently as different companies. So it was a huge task for me to implement processes, introduce good practices, HR practices. It was not easy. Many times I had wanted to just give my resignation and walk out. But I thought, no, women also need to have a place, because in our entire management, we have only 2 ladies. All the others are retired senior army officers. So you can just imagine how a woman, how difficult it is for a lady. So, but today, we are all we are all in the same management committee. They consult me for various things, and we get involved in the business as well, not only HR. And I'm proud to say, a company that had so many legal cases, labor cases, now we don't have a single case for last few years. What is pending for few years back, we still have them, but then again, nothing. So that shows that at least I have contributed something to the company. At least they seem to be believing that processes are required. Labor law, practicing labor law is required. Respect for employees is required. Processes are required. So I'm about to retire, I think about another 2 or 3 years' time. But at least I'm happy that I have brought something back to the company. And on par with all the retired army officers, working together with them.
That might explain the very strict discipline you tend to follow when it comes to timing and things like that. Perhaps the impact or the influence
we have a very disciplined work environment.
Of the military also has rubbed off on you. Although it has rubbed off on you as well, Nadija, despite the lack of a military background. This brings us to an interesting point. You mentioned company secretarial again, and it also came up, I think, Nadija, in your discussion. Now, that's an area where lawyers have automatic entry into registering as company secretaries without having to do exams afresh. And being on the board of several companies, I have found time and time again, it is so difficult to find people in that division, in that area of work, at any level, at starter level, at middle level, at senior level. And, they're extremely attractive provisions. Now, with things of compliance becoming that much wider, and Isuru, you coming from an industry, the banking sector, which is extremely regulated, regulated by the central bank, regulated by the SEC, because you're public listed. Nadija, your group also comes in with a lot of compliance and regulatory requirements. The company secretary has a role to play in all of this. And can you tell us about your experience with this lacuna in company secretary people, and what kind of opportunity there is there, and what kind of work is really involved?
Sure. So if this slide can stay, I actually put down what we now call, I've split us into reactive compliance and proactive compliance. Reactive compliance is what our traditional legal role is. A problem comes your way, you have to solve it. So whether it's documentation or due diligence or litigation or IP, it's reactive. You're waiting for it to come. Proactive compliance, I find company secretarial is one part of it. I'm sure the BASL is also monitoring, but Sri Lanka is going through a review next year on its AML, anti-money laundering and counterterrorism funding, which the central bank is taking very seriously. And it requires all lawyers are subject to FIU regulations. So I hope you all do a session on what we have to do as lawyers to comply. But it now requires a framework, audits, and documentation which never came before. And it's not just for banks. they've designated certain businesses and professions as, non-financial FIU compliance. So all of that needs to come into place. We now have a new data protection and privacy law. That requires every piece of personal information that you receive to go through a certain process. That again requires process, monitoring, reporting. If you're a listed company, the new corporate governance laws are extremely onerous, and the kind of committees that have to be in place are extremely onerous. So there is a lot of work for lawyers. It is, in my opinion, one of the highest paid jobs in the legal field. And we don't have enough people doing it. It doesn't require any great skill, I don't think. It just requires interest and
Interest and knowledge in all these areas, especially
Well, I mean,
the
for
Companies
us,
Act.
a lot of this is new, right? So the data protection law is new. The AML framework doesn't have a lot of precedence or anything, and the FIU unit is also just training people to get around it. So it's not
It's
like
studying on the go.
it's just interesting, and with ChatGPT and the kind of instruments available right now, the ability to see what's been done in other countries and the ability to engage as to what's happening now here it's very fresh, very new, and can be done really by anyone. So we now also are implementing S1, S2, the sustainability standards. There's a whole legal framework coming in under that.
Yep.
Massive opportunity and scope for lawyers, I think.
Yep.
So we went into it as company secretary, but to me it's a compliance
bigger
and
area.
governance.
Yep. So
Um,
actually there are
okay.
several divisions there, and there's specialization that lawyers can get into in terms of pure secretarial, company secretarial stuff, which requires a greater focus on the Companies Act and some aspects of compliance, and then also the compliance chiefs and compliance officers, a lot of them also who are lawyers and from financial backgrounds who have to report in on those matters. Now, like you say, with environmental compliance becoming mandatory, there is so much scope for lawyers with an interest in environment to come in and start specializing there, because corporates are going to need these people to head these divisions. Otherwise, you become answerable and you can't, you fail to comply, and then you get penalized for it. Would anyone else like to touch on that area, on the area of...
I like to add this idea about arbitration. Because that's a growing area with the commercial contracts coming in now, especially port cities also prospecting the future for young lawyers. So this arbitration is also a new area that one can get qualified as arbitrator. Also, there's a way of getting yourself certified either in Malaysia or in Singapore. And Sri Lanka also, there are going to be provisions for that. That's also a very important area when you're coming to commercial sector. Because arbitration will be more popular in the future than litigation, coming to litigation. So that aspect also need to be looked at by the young lawyers as a set of skills that they need to add. Because your initial legal qualification, either LLB or attorney at law, has to be looked at as a foundation. There are other things that needs to be built on that. It can be commercial exposure, or it can be legal and secretarial exposure, or it can go into arbitration, or it can simply the leader in you, because your leadership capability can take you in a completely different direction. So sometimes you may have that clue in the school days, like if you have been a captain of a team, leader in a debating team, society chairperson, like that. Sometimes, therefore, you don't really need to go in that legal path, because with that education and your leadership qualities, you can develop yourself to be a business leader as well.
Thank you, Isuru. Actually, it's interesting that you brought in arbitration, because what we see happening also is that the area of mediation and training as mediators is becoming more and more important. There are in this country so many incidents now of companies calling in and asking us practicing lawyers whether we would like to mediate a dispute between them and a supplier, because both parties have agreed that let's try and resolve this in an amicable manner, and let's try and be bound by someone who comes in as a mediator rather than even a formal process of arbitration. But that again requires some skills to be learnt along the way, either through experience and practice or through a formal course of study. But all these opportunities, I think the bottom line is that these opportunities to be exploited will require some additional learning. Perhaps Gayatri and Anusha, on this area of additional learning, how, you know, how, what kind of challenges does it pose on you? How easy or difficult is it to do?
Yeah, I mean, when we were young, we didn't know what path to take. We all thought that we'll end up in courtroom. For some reason, the university was closed and we got into the corporate sector, and it took us wherever we are today. So what I feel is every year there are about 700 to 1,000 lawyers passing out.
1,003.
1,003. And I don't think that they have any idea what they be wanting to do apart from the courtroom, other than for a small percentage who are exposed to the corporate sector or any other area that we have been talking about. So first they need to be at least like exposed to these areas. They have to be guided, coached, and said, okay, these are the areas that are open for you, right? So that they know which path to take. And also from at least the college or the faculty, from that stage, if they could direct these young students, they could select the path that they want to take, rather than like, you know, they practice for a few years and then suddenly decide, okay, this is not what we want to do. So that is one thing, like, you know, curriculum at the faculty and the law college, if they can accommodate these programs, or if they can at least show them these avenues are open, right, for them to progress, or for them to, like, if they want to try out. So that is one thing. I think rather, like, you know, we have a career path for all these students, who is coming into the field, coming to the profession. That is number one. And the second thing is, as Anusha very rightly said, they also need to have the passion to learn. Adam, you and I know how much we tried, like through Alumni Association, to have English classes, free English classes. They came, like, you know, after a few classes, the teacher said that there are no students to follow the class. And it was stopped. And how we tried to find lecturers on different subjects. And then later we find that, like, you know, not many students would like to attend those classes, because they only think of the exam. Their mind is catered to the exam. They think by passing the exam that their biggest hurdle is over. No, that is not the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle is what are they going to do thereafter. So they also need to, like, as well as the administrators have a duty to kind of have us, like, you know, expose these students. The students also need to be committed to find out or to make use of the opportunities that are being created. So I see that because during our days, when we are being told that there's a guest lecturer coming, we are so interested to take part. We attend those classes. We try to find what is being taught in addition to what has been taught to us in the classroom. But now I think the young you know, they like to kind of what is in for me, before they could think what I have to do to get it. What is in for me? I think that thinking needs to change.
I think just before Anusha also adds her comments, I think perhaps the environment 25, 20, 30 years ago in the country had a lot to do also with the attitude to want to learn different things. There was such uncertainty. And this whole idea of, you know, when you'll finish, how you'll finish, what the circumstances will be after you've finished. And so you were always keeping your options open and trying to look and arm yourself with things that would keep you going should things not work out. I mean, I did my CIM for the same reasons, because I wasn't sure whether there would be a career in the law, whether you would graduate and, like you, Gayatri, came into the profession 2 years after the faculty. because we were by that time already half involved with other things, because we'd learnt different things as well to give us options. Today we find a little more uh, uh, one-dimensional approach, because there is a feeling that no, the doors of practice will open, or something along what I have studied is going to open, whereas that's not always the case. You have to look for other areas. Anusha, you spoke of research and things, legal research as an area, and if you have any additional comments to make to what Gayatri said as well.
Before that, I like to add something to what Gayatri said, Adam. I don't know whether you remember, you and Isuru and Nalani. When there was a guest lecture, at least we went to that classroom even to learn, or just look at the lecturer. We went because we wanted to be there. So by listening, at least we learned something. I think that commitment was there, but I don't see that commitment even like maybe it's not. So many things are happening virtually. Maybe that is the reason. Yeah, when it comes to research, I think it is applicable to all these sectors, but especially for the international development sector is like research is comprised of a very big component, and that you need a lot of analytical skills and then writing skill and then to present it. That's a total package. And then again, what I believe, Adam, like I think nowadays the new lawyers come with better English and better skills. But what we don't see is that that are they happy to commit themselves to grow? So that is what I mean. But that is what I don't see in most cases. Like that they want to I'm sure if they come as your junior, they want to be like you within a year, like, which is impossible, right? So what I see is like they want to climb up the ladder and be on top very soon. Like it's a very attractive thing to assume, but it's you have to put a lot of hard work over the years to sit at that place, right? So that is what we don't see. That is what I think. That is the message as seniors who have come through. I mean, a long way. To give them, like to think about that this doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, for you, I mean, for all of us, for even Nalani, Indika, everyone who is here as a senior. So it takes courage to commit yourself that you know one day you are going to achieve something. I mean, Isuru is, I mean, like he has been telling all these things in a different, with different words. So you have to get away from that fear that if you think you are going to be a failure, you will never try doing that. So you have to believe in yourself that you are going to achieve. One day you are going to climb up the ladder and going to the top. So that is what we don't see, that whoever, I mean, like virtually connected also, that they have to understand this is a gradual process. I mean, Nadija mentioned so many areas, broad areas that if anyone is willing to learn, I mean, you see that you can't just, even for you, I suppose, Nadija, it's a learning. You learn every day, right? You learn every day. Like, I mean, she said about this FIU, and we also work with FIU regarding this, the various regulatory things. Like, when we talk, I mean, like, sometimes still I am like a bit excited, like most of the things I don't know.
New.
So
Everything is new.
And then when I go for the next meeting, I try to read as much as possible. It is the learning process. It is not that you know everything, right? As you say, like when you come and talk, so many things are like Greek to me. Like we don't understand. We don't know that they exist even. But then, like next day, you have to be ready to face that. You have to like
Read up
with that knowledge and go back. That is what I don't see. I mean, that is, I think, when you take society as a whole, it's like a bit of a, like they like to achieve so many things quite fast and enjoy also. Maybe that is the reason. So if we can give this message, like as seniors, that you have to, that commitment, and the passion also, commitment and the passion, and themselves should be there to climb up the ladder.
In fact, sorry, Nadija, I'm coming to you actually because there is a specific thing that I wanted to also ask you from it, but I'd like you to also give your thoughts on this. But what you just said reminded me of this idea of work-life balance, which is spoken of so much now. But I doubt whether any of us on this panel knew very much about what work-life balance was when we were in the earlier parts of our career. There was really no balance for a long time. There was work, and life was work, I think, to a large extent, perhaps even to this day. And so perhaps the whole idea of also learning and constantly looking for new things there's a lesser impetus now because there is a bigger focus on the balance part of life and a lesser focus on work. Perhaps not necessarily a bad thing, but it might also lead to less opportunities being available. Nadija, when you make your comments, I'd like you to also try and focus on the area of contract drafting, international law-related matters, because you'll have a lot of dealings with foreign organizations, with mutual business ventures, joint ventures, etc. So the kind of learning that you do receive as an employee in an organization like yours in that area, and the kind of skills you might need when you join in to look at areas like contract drafting, structuring agreements, etc.
So I was actually trying to do a list of skills that you need to join the corporate sector. And if you asked me this 5 years ago, I would have said that drafting in English is an essential skill when you're working in the corporate world that works in English. I don't think that's any more the case. I think if you are able to articulate and prompt an AI tool, you can draft a perfect contract that is according to standards. A lot of my early training was teaching the young lawyers that came in brevity, formatting. I'd send a document back saying, I'm not going to look at the substance of it till it comes back to me in a form that I can read without getting irritated. But now it's there because they have to run it past an AI tool, being conscious of proprietary information going out onto the ether, but we've enabled that. And it's easy now, actually. I want to spend a little bit of time on the learning part, both what Anusha and Gayatri said, because every day I still learn after 30 years. And if there's one skill and one attribute we look for, it is the curiosity and the yearning to learn. Because you can't do a job like the way we do it. Because everything that comes your way is new. So we don't do repetitive work. So you have to go in, you have to do the research, you have to look behind the obvious and draw these things out. It's constantly new work. So you have to thrive on not knowing how to do the work in front of you and finding out how to do it. That's the one attribute I think we would look for. And I think Anusha said, we are finding it hard to find new lawyers. We are looking and we can't find them. And what are we looking for, right? I was helping someone prepare for an interview in the UK recently as an undergrad. And the type of questions, they go through 6 rounds of AI interviews before they get to a real person. They have to do deep searches into what the chairman has said about the future of the company, what the sustainability standards they're following are. There is so much research you have to do and prep. And people come to me with interviews and I say, what area of John Keel's interests you? And they don't know what the company does. And I'm like, why are you here? That's true. Don't come to me. Think about where the future of this company is and come. So you have to have done the research. Don't come for a job without doing the research. Don't come for a job without knowing what is out there. So you have to have the curiosity to learn. right? It's not something that the company owes you. You need to work at getting it. So,
And back in the day, you had to go and find an annual report in printed form somewhere and then try and find out what the company was about. Today, it's 3 seconds away on your phone, and you still don't take the effort to try and find out before you come for an interview. I mean, that just shows complete lethargy. And there's not much you can expect from a candidate who has come in that way for an opportunity. I was very curious when we found that we have representation from the legal draftsman's department also here in the auditorium. That's an area that I'm sure is also struggling for people, am I right? Because it's such a unique skill, again, that you need to develop to get the laws drafted in a manner that does not cause ambiguity, applies uniformly, applies without contradiction. I'm sure that's an area that, unfortunately, we don't have someone who can comment on the panel, but that's another interesting area where there must be a lot of scope of work, especially with new laws being formed all the time now in new areas in order for us to keep pace with global changes. Isuru, being again from the banking background, things like you must be seeing a lot of also foreign setups happening here, both small, larger. I see a lot of potential, and in fact, my office does a bit of that as well, in terms of business advisory in general on foreigners setting up operations here. Everything from what kind of business you can set up, how to go about incorporating. The banking sector is very linked to that whole area with inward investment accounts replacing SIAs and the requirement for that structure to be available. But do you have any thoughts or comments on that area?
Actually, it is someone getting to that area as a banker. So actually, someone aspiring to get there first has to get into banking. And then, of course, there's an international trade area. It's a completely new, separate area, special discipline, but ideal for a lawyer because there are a lot of things to be with documentations, rules and regulations, Incoterms, all kind of things are very much connected to law, law and law related to trade. And but you have to come through the normal channel of getting into a banking employment. So there you have to start learning to think like a banker. And then you go into other areas of advisory, particularly in, when it comes to international banking, those international trade aspects. And otherwise you work as a relationship officer. Then you are into general advising as well to businesses. So we have people who have done law as a basic degree or basic qualification and then come into banking and learn banking and then branched off to these areas, and their legal skills are coming really handy in those areas. But what matters here is that you have to ask, how can I help the business through my profession? So you are not thinking like a lawyer in that sense, but you are thinking like a banker who knows law. And then you apply yourself to the given situation. So even actually when we are talking about other areas like company secretarial or HR, actually we don't look at it in purely in terms of I'm doing HR or I'm doing company secretarial or I'm doing legal. Actually all of them are part of the business. So what you are trying to do is how you help the business or how you drive the business through your knowledge. And the thing about knowledge is, as Nadija said, the things are getting doubled every 2 years or even faster. So what you knew 2 years ago is relevant today. So every day we keep on coming up with new situation with technology. So this is the thinking has to change. You have to ask the question, how can I help the business through my knowledge? And then you are in the mainstream.
Yeah, just in fact at a junior bar seminar a couple of weeks ago, this area was discussed and we found that even in the legal practice, today seniors are learning from juniors in this whole thing of reverse mentorship. and I commented there at that session that organizations are deliberately bringing in young blood as apprentices, as interns, so that the seniors can learn from the juniors and be mentored by the juniors in new skills and new techniques like the use of AI, for instance, prompting and things which seem to come a little more naturally to people who are younger and more tech savvy than to the old dogs that we are. And it's more difficult, I suppose, at our age to learn new tricks than it is for the younger people. So I don't think there should be a hesitation to get into a non-law area in order to find career paths, to find niches that you can make a lucrative career out of, a successful career out of. Non-litigation, sorry, yes. I stand corrected. Thank you, Nadija. It's not that you're learning non-law things, you're learning non-litigation things. And things invariably connected to law. You find that law has this wide base which seems to touch everything. I mean, if you learn SEMA, for instance, there is a component of business law that you do have to follow in it. Any other comments from the panel before we maybe toss up to see if there are any questions from the audience, if any? Yes, please.
I think, although this is from the women lawyers section of BASL, I don't want to gender stereotype and say it's more suitable for women, but certainly from a work-life balance, if I want to call it that, or at least being able to organize your life in a manner that is more controllable, the non-litigation aspects of the law are far more conducive to people who want to manage home, family, and have some time for themselves, because the hours are more predictable. After COVID, the ways of working have changed so that you are able to work. Like I said, a lot of my lawyers will work at least a couple of days from home, whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. And I see that now with video conferencing and the kind of meeting setups that are happening. It's happening at government departments, it's happening at banks, it's happening across the world. But litigation hasn't got there. Courtroom practice, I don't think, has completely got there. And this wasting half a morning at court and then working late into the night is very difficult when you're trying to manage
Family.
home and family, whether you're a man or a woman. So the other aspects of it are certainly much more conducive.
Right. So there's a plus in terms of being attractive. And again, statistics this year, out of the 1,300, I think a little over 60% entering the profession are women. So there's a lot to think about in terms of practicality, also what you can and want to do. Because again, we had the benefit of the Junior Law Conference of Mrs. Fazana Jamil and Mrs. Bari speaking and talking of how the challenges are of doing litigation when you're also bringing up a family, and it's not easy. And her story was something that really resonated well.
Adam, can I add something? One thing, particularly at the student days, maybe for the passed out lawyers this is irrelevant, but for law students, seeking internships in the areas of potential employment is very, very important. Say, if you think that your line is going to be company secretarial work, working for under a company secretary, doing an internship would greatly enhance your potential of getting employed in that area. Same with other areas. So that's 3 years in law college or 4 years in the law faculty should not be completely looked at as a pure academic exercise. Whenever the holidays, whenever possible, you should do a parallel internship in those places that will enhance the employability of the young graduate very much.
In fact, not just, I think, enhance your ability to get into that area, but actually give you an idea of what that area is like for you to choose. So if you, for instance, have interned in the 3 years that you've spent at law college, you've used your vacation time to intern in different areas, you would then know whether I'm cut out for this or not. And I think that helps you make the choice easier as well.
And you're sure to get the employment also, because moment and you go to the interview, they realize that you already know what this business and what this place is all about. So your potential of getting employed is far, far greater than just going there cold.
Again, as a company that hires more for attitude rather than qualifications, a lot of our hires have come through our internships, because that's given us time to assess whether the person has the aptitude to learn, etc.
I might share an example, one that stayed etched in my mind for a while. I once had a client from a Chinese company. He was the head of that company here. I won't take names and mention it. And he came in and he introduced himself, where his first name, as in the case of most Chinese, is a non-Chinese name. But it sounded like a Sri Lankan name. So I thought, okay, it's at the back of my mind. He sat in and he started the consultation, and then he said, in perfect Sinhala, better than mine, whether we could have the consultation in Sinhala rather than in English. And here was this man born and bred in China, who spoke better Sinhala than me. With the first, then I said, I just wanted to ask you, from the time you introduced yourself, your first name, is it Sri Lankan? He said, yes, it is. I chose a Sri Lankan first name. And when I inquired into the background, I said, let's keep the consultation on hold. I'm just curious to know your story. He said he went into the specialized field of engineering into university, and his father said, look, the field you're getting into is extremely competitive. You need to decide where you want to go, what you want to do. So he had sent him to 8 countries. He asked him to pick countries he'd like to go to. Sent him to 8 countries for short visits. Loved Sri Lanka, and came back and said, I'd like to work in Sri Lanka. So his father said, then you need to prepare for this, because it's so competitive in China. And so what he did is, in his university degree in China, he took Sinhala as an optional language and graduated in a technical engineering field with Sinhala. Went in for his interviews, and there was really no competition for him to get selected to be posted here. He was posted here and made his way up very quickly to the top of that position. I mean, again, it just shows how the steps one needs to take in order to get to where you want to go, and the extra learning, the extra effort you need to put in to be geared for that. Any other comments, or shall we open it out if there are any questions from?
Based on the panel insights, what practical steps should the Bar Association of Sri Lanka take immediately to bridge the skill gaps among young lawyers?
If I can start answering that and then leave it to the panel, I think more than an obligation of the Bar Association, I think it's a self-obligation. You need to look at where you stand, analyze yourself. I mean, the study of the law is so much analysis. If you finish the law and you can't analyze yourself and your own skills and your own shortcomings, then I think the law hasn't taught you much. Once you know where you fall short, I think the initiative must come from each lawyer to do that. What the Bar Association, in my view, can do, perhaps to help, and certainly the law schools can do, is to open the students' eyes to the fact that besides the law, you might be having to learn something else, whether it is soft skills or hard skills, and equip yourself for wherever you'd like to go. But I don't think it's the role of the Bar Association, correctly, we have the president of the Bar Association with us here, if I'm wrong. It's not really the role of the Bar Association to be looking at spoon feeding in the form of providing supplementing programs for lawyers to be able to carve their paths. It's more perhaps a case of just opening their eyes to what the possibilities are. Otherwise, we might not be the Bar Association after a while. But any other career counseling?
Can start at law college level.
Of course.
I also think there is somewhat of a disproportionate importance given to practice in Sri Lanka. If you look at graduates coming out of the UK, the vast majority of them don't become barristers. They become solicitors to go into firms, because that's where the money is, and it's much easier, and there's far more work. And as I said, in my experience, practice is less than 20% of the practice of law. Courtroom practice is less than 20% of the practice of law. So if we are having a bar association that is concentrating only on courtroom practice, there is then disproportionate importance given to that field of work.
In fact, we didn't touch on the instructing aspect of the practice, which is a huge area. It comes also with the conveyancing area. I'm sure you all have conveyancing in your department as well, in-house. So even the corporate jobs in the legal department would involve conveyancing skills to be used, as in the case of the banks, for sure. Any response?
The same question which Nalani raised, Adam. I'm totally with you, but I think they are looking for some work, I suppose, as the committee chairperson. So, Nalani, actually now how you can help is not looking at every area that you could give skills, but I suppose like the broader aspects where bar association can, could help them, like maybe to give them some sort of like thought process to think about, like to how to go ahead with their career, and maybe selecting the area as well. Not every individual area. I don't think as my two colleagues mentioned, that is the responsibility of the bar association, and it's totally personal, and it's, as you say, like everything is on the phone now, like it's very open, unlike the days we passed out, and the connectivity is is a part of life now, like unlike our days, so we had to like really connect, so then it's very different to our days. So I think the bar association's role once you pass out is not giving, like especially saying that spoon feeding everyone to what to do and what not to do.
In fact, Anusha, most of the law schools, including law college, the faculty of law at the university, they all have very good mentorship programs which are starting out, and the mentorship programs involve mentorships not just in the practicing profession, but also in the other areas of opportunity for lawyers, from law firms to corporates to etc. And I think those are avenues that are already in force at the right time. That's at student level, as you pointed out.
So you all could join with law schools and law college, and then maybe like during the second and third year, try to provide some sort of like mentorships available, internships available, and we don't have internships program now with UN because of this funding situation. Early days we used to give them a small amount, very small thing. But the more than the knowledge, the first question they ask is, are you giving us, something that's
stipend.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Suru, sometimes the experience, for instance, of the alumni associations of the faculty and things are that the internships don't get the level of participation that the organizers anticipate or would hope for, which is really a tragedy, because the program is done for the student to be able to enable the student to decide on how the career path will move, and then there is a lack of enthusiasm. Perhaps again because of the thinking that I just need to pass my exams and I'm okay, I'll be set for life, not quite realizing that that's not how it works.
I would like to add something to that, because actually the Bar Association is doing right now a marvelous service, because we are, even through these committees, we are organizing a lot of webinars, workshops, and the participation is, the young lawyers especially, is very less, because we are giving them the opportunity to learn, but they are not making use of that. They are not making use of that opportunity, because at our level based, these committees, even today's workshop is witness for that. So whatever the barriers are there, we are giving them the opportunity, but they don't make use of that. So beyond that, it's very difficult for them to give these opportunities, because as we discussed earlier, there are so many opportunities and so many job opportunities also. There are no capable people. So why is that? Because they are not up to these standards, you know. The basic qualification is not enough to accept the certain positions. So beyond that, we should learn certain the qualities, standards and knowledge, everything, overall everything, not only one side. So I believe that we are trying our level best to give, but there's very less people to get this.
There's still a big gap between the skills demanded and the skills supplied. There is an excess supply and an excess demand, but there is a mismatch between the demand and the supply in terms of what can be provided.
That's true.
If there
I
are...
think, Adam, what I feel is that law studies are geared on one direction. But when you, like, the corporate sector requires a well-groomed person employed. Now, even when we interview, we compare, like, when, like, especially graduates with international, like, you know, foreign degrees. They outsmart the local, like, you know, the local graduates to a certain extent when, like, you know, their appearance, the way of presenting themselves. So the soft skills also matters. Now, unlike those days, now the olden days, only a limited crowd got into the legal stream. And everybody who pass out has a job, like, you know, either as an instructing lawyer or a counsel. But now the numbers have increased. So how do we, and we get students from all areas, not only like Colombo or suburbs. So, and most of them are not exposed. And how do we groom them? How do we make them understand these are the demands of the corporate sector? So I think there need to be a balance, like, you know, as well as the students need to be committed to learn, there need to be some way of, like, you know, how we could supply that to them. So that is also important.
But as Nadija pointed out earlier, the basics of, say, for instance, coming into an interview when almost everyone, no matter which region they come from, has access today to internet. And, you know, the basic research not being done about the organization you're going to. And we've seen that time and time again, Nadija. So, you know, it seems to be a common corporate problem where people come in being fully aware of what they've learned in terms of their academic program, but having no knowledge about the organization they're trying to join. And that doesn't reflect well.
I think, Adam, this capability building goes beyond the call of the bar association. So these are maybe incorporated council or legal education has to get together, because maybe after the exam also, the period they are doing the apprenticeship, there some time has to be dedicated for this capability building. So the capability building is exposure. Most of the time, the exposure is important. So what we talked about, maybe meeting their mentors, or maybe doing internships, maybe doing some group work, preparing them for that journey, I think has to be thought through and really planned well. Then I think they will pick it up. It's just that the traditional legal education and the path we have taken over the years may not be adequate to do that capability building.
True. That's an interesting point.
On the subject of interviewing and being prepared when you go to interviews, I would like to ask the question, what are the qualities the organizations look for when hiring people for in-house counsels as well as compliance roles? So just to be enlightened on that.
We'll let the corporate people who do the recruiting. I think Nadija might have a slide on that,
I
which
actually
will
had a
save us
slide
all
on it.
the trouble of going into it.
But really attitude. So, as you said, some level of grooming is required. But more than anything, we are looking for attitude, your curiosity to learn, your curiosity to do anything. I've had people come in and say, but I can't do that, I'm a lawyer. If you have to photocopy, you have to photocopy. That's the way the corporate world works. And just come prepared. If you haven't come prepared, it just shows that you haven't got the curiosity or the propensity to learn, I suppose.
Since I have done many interviews in my career, I can tell you one thing. What we are looking for is competence. Competent, when you say competent, there are three elements in this. One is knowledge. Second thing is skill. Third thing, as Nadija said, attitude. So we are trying to, in the interview process, we are trying to gauge all this. Obviously, when you have your attorneys or LLB, then we know that most of the time knowledge is certified by the institution. But skill, through the questions, panel would try to ascertain whether certain work has been done, whether the exposure is there. Then the most important thing, the attitude, that whether you are coming with a positive attitude towards organization and the work. Sometimes even other two areas are a little weak. If the attitude is very positive, we would still hire because we think that we can train the other two. The attitude comes from your value system. Attitude is like a tip of iceberg. What you cannot see is below there's values. What you gain from your parents, what you gain from your school, your other activities, the social activities, all that has built up to that attitude. So that is very difficult for an organization to do. So we try to get the right attitude, but knowledge and skill we can still pump in and support the person. So we are trying to get somebody competent. So this is how the interview is really working in ascertaining these three aspects.
Right. If there are no other questions, perhaps we can fold this program. Just in closing, thank you very much again for giving us the opportunity of being here and sharing. We're at the stage of our careers where I think we all want to give back, and forums like this provide us that opportunity to try and assist in some way those coming up the pipeline to settle themselves in their career paths. So thank you once again.
For that insightful, informative and thought-provoking discussion, I now invite Mr. Rajiv Amrasurya, President, Bar Association of Sri Lanka, to share his valuable insights. Sir, over to you.
Mrs. Indika Nagarat Kottagoda and Mrs. Nalini Manatunga, the chairperson and co-chairperson of the BASL Women Lawyers Professional and Career Development Committee, conveners Kaushalya Jayavira and Tarika Ruanpura, Kaushali Jayavira and Tarika Ruanpura, the eminent panel before us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for this excellent presentation. It's not the best of days to hold this with the inclement weather, but the positive of all this is that it was live streamed across the entire membership, and experience is such that we have a live audience and also we have a post audience, and that those numbers rise on a weekly basis. And as president of the Bar Association, if all of what you said, I can get into the minds of all our young members, that will be a huge positive. We do have a large viewership on the virtual platform. There are those who are unable to be here, but join in either live or thereafter, and that is the feedback we get. I just got the statistics of our numbers, which might be interesting to all of you. So we have 26,000 members. Out of that, we have 11,500 men and 14,900 women. So now the women have far outnumbered the men, I think by about 1/3. If you break that down a little further, and we look at those up to 10 years in practice, we have 3,200 men and 6,710 women. So we have more than double the men in our women members. We set up a gender equality committee this year for the first time to, of course, look at it from the equality, but also look at it from the point of view of empowering and having more women in the practice especially. But of course, if you look at the numbers, it's the other way around. There are a couple of things I just wanted to mention that now that I have been given this opportunity, which we need to also address. One is, of course, the generation gap. And we have now a membership, we have a senior membership, and that is about 15,000 members, and we have 10,000 who are less than 10. And that is something we are striving to address, how to reach out to both segments of our membership. Then, of course, we have a large number of women in the profession. I think Nadija said, yes, 20-25% is only the court practice, and I agree with you. But out of the 20-25% also, we find that about 80% are men. And it's only maybe 20% who are women who actually stay on. You might join the profession, but you don't stay on. So that's something we need to address, and we want to ensure, we will find ways and means to ensure that as many the women members who join the profession with the practice or the court practice will continue, and we make it comfortable for them to continue. The numbers of the profession, actually, I was not here in the morning because the admission of attorneys are taking place presently. And I generally try to be at those sessions. And this week, 530 new attorneys were admitted, and also most of them are now members of the BASL. We must also appreciate that the world today is not what we had 20, 30 years ago. And therefore, the practice is also very, very different. The people are more connected. There is more technology or doing things differently. We are also competing, more members competing for maybe lesser or limited resources. And then we have social media, which also gives us a lot of problems on other aspects like ethics and so on, and also the limits to which members can go. So those are also things which we need to look at in this move forward. And as I think I was watching a little bit through the phone before I came here, and I think something which touched me was what Isuru said, and that you must find the leader in you. And that's something you said, and I was listening to this on the phone. So the BASL is doing its best to address all of these multifaceted issues. It's not easy, it's very complex. I think in the last few months, we have at least progressed to some extent. We are driving on 3 pillars presently. That is, of course, independence, which we will not be unconditional. We are also looking at inclusivity as the second pillar, and innovation, because the world now is very different. It is driven on technology, it is driven on creativity, and so on. Programs such as this are important. As it was mentioned, I think career guidance is something we need to drive from the first year with the law college or law faculty. Those options must be presented. And I come from some might say a legal background, but I can tell you, Adam, I had absolutely no career guidance. And I just went along with various options put to me and whatever felt convenient. and I just ended up, I mean, in the practice, it could have failed miserably, but, and if that happened to me, obviously someone who doesn't have that background would, it would be much worse. So I think I would also request all of you to help us in that endeavor. We have a committee which is focused on student development and law student development, chaired by Malraj Kiriyalla. And of course, he has had many sessions here where we have had a full packed house, and then we have tried to impart knowledge. But I would like to, this identical panel, maybe at some point when you have the time, to speak to them also. And I will speak to that committee to maybe make some time and do that. So anyway, thank you very much on behalf of the Bar Association. It was an enlightening session. And of course, thank you to the committee, which did a lot of work. And I hope to see more programs such as this. And of course, thank you to everyone present here and also virtually who are connected. Please take note of what was said. It was not just a few, a lot of nice, good points for anyone, even more mid-level and more even senior members, to take note of in further developing the respective careers and of course their respective lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank our esteemed panel once more for sharing their invaluable insights and enriching us with such a thoughtful discussion, and for joining us today among their busy schedules, especially in this adverse weather. As a heartfelt expression of our sincere gratitude, we will now present tokens of appreciation for our distinguished panelists. May I kindly invite Mr. Rajiv Amrasurya, President, Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Mrs. Indika Nagaratna, Chairperson, Women Lawyers Professional and Career Development Committee, Mrs. Nalini Manatunga, Co-Chair, Women Lawyers Professional and Career Development Committee, to the stage to present these tokens of appreciation. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam. As we draw this enriching symposium to a close, it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Kaushali Jayavira to deliver the closing remarks.
It is both an honor and a privilege to deliver the vote of thanks at this significant symposium on Beyond the Courtroom, Expanding Professional and Career Horizons for Lawyers, organized by the Women Lawyers Professional and Career Development Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. First and foremost, on behalf of the committee and everyone gathered here, I extend our deepest gratitude to our distinguished panelists, resource persons for their time, wisdom, and thought-provoking insights. Ms. Anusha Munasinghe, National Program Coordinator, Regional Office, UNODC. Ms. Isuru Tilakawardana, former Deputy General Manager, Human Resource Commercial Bank. Ms. Gayatri Chakravarti, Senior Vice President, Human Resource Distilleries Company. Ms. Nadija Tambaya, President, Legal and Secretarial and CSR, John Keels Holdings. Your contributions illuminated the diverse avenues available to young lawyers today beyond traditional litigation and highlighting the importance of career development, leadership, mentorship, and meaningful professional networks. Your perspectives have undoubtedly inspired everyone present. Our heartfelt appreciation also goes to our moderator, Mr. Mohammed Adamali, President's Council, for steering today's discussion for such clarity, depth, and engaging dialogue. His extensive experience, including his role as a director of several listed companies, brought in invaluable dimension to the conversations. We are truly grateful for your presence, sir. I also wish to express our sincere thanks to Mr. Rajiv Amarasuriya, President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Mr. Chathura Galhena, Secretary of the Management Committee, and the dedicated administrative staff of the BASL. Your steadfast support and facilitation have been instrumental in making today's event a reality. A special word of appreciation is due to the chairperson, Ms. Indika Nagaratna, and Career Development Committee of the Women Lawyers Professional Career Development Committee, and the co-chairperson, Ms. Nalini Manatunga, for their vision, leadership, and tireless efforts in organizing this symposium. Your commitment to uplift and empower women lawyers across Sri Lanka is truly commendable. Finally, to all participants and invitees, Mrs. Dilrukshi Samaravira, President's Council, Legal Draftsman of the Democratic Social Republic of Sri Lanka, and Mrs. Anupama Tilakaratna, Chief Law Officer, Sri Lanka Ports Authority. Thank you for your presence, Madam. Thank you once again. Finally, all participants, I would like to thank you for coming in this bad weather with all the challenges. Your enthusiasm reaffirms the importance of creating platforms where young legal professionals can learn, connect, and explore new opportunities within and beyond the courtroom. Thank you once again for making this symposium a meaningful and a memorable success. Before we conclude, we warmly invite all of you to join us for a time of fellowship and refreshments arranged in the hall. We look forward to continue the conversation and sharing what was discussed. Thank you once again, and have a pleasant evening.